Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is FS. What's going on? As you can see from this model right here, this is another one of my model kit reviews, unboxings, etc. Sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars related videos. And today I just wanted to make basically a review and a report, if you will, of the model building process. Just give you a report, a review of how the process of building this right here model was. Was it easy? Was it hard? Just give my thoughts, give my opinions, tell you if I recommend this model, etc. And this is the Revell Easy Kit Pocket number 06723. Obviously, as you can see, it's a model of an X-Wing fighter. And there are other models, as you can see on the back here. It says here skill level 2. So this is really just, for entry level skill level for people who want to start building. And it's really a small model. As you can see, it fits on the palm of my hand. And it's really cheap. It only cost €9.99. For that cheap price, I really can't complain, I have to say. And yeah, so there are those easy kit model kits out there who are larger, obviously, and who are, kid friendly, child friendly, for an easy entry basically into the model building world, if you will. And this, however, is Easy Kit Pocket. So these are smaller models, and as you might be able to spot here on the back, it says it's 21 parts. It's 110 millimeters long, so 11 centimeters. I don't know, that's probably about 6-7 inches, I don't know, or 4 or 5, I don't know. It's a small model. It was easy to assemble. I'll show you the frame. So these were where all of the parts were. It's just these two frames, basically. It's two larger frames, and then this smaller one. Those were the window parts of the cockpit. So yeah, and it came with an instruction manual, very short, very to the point, very easy to follow. I didn't want to make a video about showing you how I assembled it, because it took me like 10 minutes, honestly, so I didn't want to go with you through the process of assembling it, because it was just a spontaneous decision. I thought, well, I'm gonna quickly assemble this, and so basically you first assemble the main body in the cockpit, then you assemble the parts of the wings, which basically just means you put the blasters or whatever and the engines onto the main wing parts, which are they're just complete as they are. This is one piece, and then you just fit the engines on there, and that's it. And then they slide into each other without snapping. By the way, this is obviously a snap kit. No gluing is required, even though I honestly have to say some of the parts don't snap or don't fit that perfectly. So maybe that was just the model that I got, the copy that I got, because obviously at this scale, it's small. It's not that easy to make, each hole and each knob, each tube exactly perfectly, matching to each other. So little mistakes like that can occur. I mean, it wasn't that hard. Obviously, I have some glue, some plastic model making glue, so it was really not that much of a problem. But anyway, so you slide the wings into each other, and then you just add the guns, and that's where I needed the glue, because as you can see, there are these holes, and one of them it fit perfectly, but in the other three the holes were too big, or the little tubes right here, the little knobs that are supposed to go into the holes, just didn't fit. Either the holes were too big or the knobs were too small, and it just didn't fit. But yeah, and then you put it all together, and that's it. There's even a little R2, and by the way, there's also a little, I think it's supposed to be Luke Skywalker, or maybe it's just some other Rebel pilot, I don't know. But yeah, and for that size, for that scale, it's really detailed, the R2 unit in there, and the little figure in there. It's really detailed, if you can see. So that's a really positive aspect about this model. But in general, like I said, it was easy to assemble. It took me like 10 minutes, and I'm really not that of an experienced model maker. I mean, the other model that I did, I'll put the link right here or whatever, of the USS Enterprise NCC 1701, a movie era refit. That was skill level 3 or 4 or whatever, so that was way harder than this, and I managed it, and there was paint needed. This one didn't require any paint, didn't require any glue. Took me like 10 minutes, whereas the other one I did, the Enterprise one, it took me like several weeks basically. So this was way easier. And you know, from the way it looks, I mean, for the price, like I said, $10 or 10 euros, you really can't complain. I mean, obviously, if you compare the end result to what's on the box, it obviously, you know, it's not really, it sucks. One of the issues that I have is, you know, I mean, maybe that's just the lighting here, but obviously it's way more white on this picture here. But it's also more weathered, which is something that you can redo. I mean, you could easily weather this and make it look more like this picture, for instance, or like other pictures, or like the actual models, you know. But what pisses me off most about this model is it just looks plastic. It just looks like it's plastic, and I know every model kit is basically plastic, but it just looks like it. I mean, there's tricks to make it look not like plastic, but this one to me just looks a little too plasticky. But you know, again, for the price, you really can't complain. There are those newer Bandai models that came out in 2016, which are about the same scale actually, really small models, but extremely detailed, extremely accurate, weathered, nice paint application, but they cost $10 more than this, and personally I can only get them online. I don't know. The thing was, I just saw this one in one of the shops in my city, and I just figured, why not for $10? And I mean, like I said, for $10 you really can't complain. But my suggestion would be, if you don't have either of these Revell models or the newer Bandai models, get the Bandai model. Just spend, you know, online, just spend an extra $10, and you know, $20 is still not really expensive. But if you want an easy entry level, just for fun build, and you see this in the shop, you know, and there's no other ones available, if you really want one, and if you don't want to order online, or you just want one now and you don't really have that much money, go ahead and buy this. I can recommend it. But if you want one that's more accurate, or if you have the choice basically and you have the extra money, go ahead and buy the Bandai one. It looks way more accurate. So, because I mean, yeah, there are some greebles here and some details, some tubes, some recessed areas, some carved in lines. The paint job is fairly accurate, but I don't know, there's still something missing. For instance, here on the end of the blasters or whatever it is, there are just some painted in black lines. But if you look at the picture, yeah, you can see that there is actually supposed to be some cavities in there, some recesses. But no, that's just painted in there, and it looks pretty bad. And I just feel like the main body here, the cockpit and everything, looks fairly plasticky. From the back it also looks fairly plasticky. But then again, the wings themselves, I think, especially from far away, and you know, the profile shot, it looks awesome. So you know, you really get the sense of, yeah, this is an actual studio model, like from the profile shot and everything. But if you look at the cockpit or the main body itself, if you look at the back, if you look at some of the detail on the engines, I don't know, it just looks a little too plasticky, a little too toy-ish. But I'm gonna actually attempt to make it look more like this picture here, or like the Bandai model, or just I'm gonna look at generally of pictures, you know, of the actual models from the movies and CGI models, etc. And I'm gonna attempt to repaint some of the parts, because I don't know. I think mostly the difference between this and this is just it's more white and it looks more metal-y. And it's more weathered, and so maybe just do some weathering, scratch away some of the paint in a scraggly fashion, add some black here, add some silver lines, silver scratches, go with, you know, some black paint or some gray paint, just scraggly, you know, wipe over here so that it makes it look that the engines are used, you know, the exhaust from the engines is there, all the dirt is there, and it makes it maybe look, you know, the tubes and the greebles stand out more, because there are obviously some raised parts and some recesses and some carved out lines, etc., but it needs to stand out a little more in order to convince me, I guess. And I don't know how accurate the paint job is. I mean, if you look at some CGI models, etc., I don't know. I think in reality some of the raised parts, some of the greebles actually have different color nuances. The only colors used here are the basic white of the hull, and then this gray right here, and then the blue parts here, and the red and the yellow, and that's it. And I think there are some more nuances, some more different gray parts, different blacks, silver. Here you can see on this picture the paint is peeling off on the gray of the cockpit. There are some black scruff marks and battle damage and, you know, markings from the exhaust and everything like that, and scratches. And I'm gonna get back to you. I just wanted to show you this model, review it, see if I recommend it. I already said my piece on that. I basically recommend it, if you will. For that price, again, you really can't complain. But I'm actually gonna get back to you and show you what I made out of it, if I managed to make it look more like the Bandai model, or, you know, etc. Quickly, I forgot, you know, as you can see, this is actually one piece right here. But here I had to actually cut it into two pieces and sand and file away some of the parts because it just wouldn't fit. Again, as with the blasters here, 3 out of the 4 blasters wouldn't fit, so I had to use glue. And again here, this just wouldn't fit, so I have to file away. If you can see right here on the underside, there, one of the engines, right here too, it doesn't really fit perfectly. It, you know, has a slight upward bend compared to the others. Yeah, here you can see the upward bend right here and everything, so it doesn't fit perfectly. There are some issues. You can see some of the holes. Maybe that can be fixed with some glue. I also used glue on the cockpit because no matter how hard I pressed, it just wouldn't fit. So I glued it down, and again I glued these down, and the whole thing is a little wobbly, as you can see. But yeah, if you just gonna, you know, put it away on a display case, you know, on a showcase, whatever, it's perfect for that, especially if no one is gonna take a more detailed look at it, because, you know, from far away I think it looks awesome, but, you know, there are obviously some issues with it. And again, some of the snap parts didn't really snap. I had to use some glue, but maybe that was just my copy. But yeah, I don't know. There are some greeblies on the back here. Again, you know, you've got the engines also in some greebles. These tubes here, you've got basically just white and these grays right here. There's not much color nuance, I think. Not much color diversity. Oh my god, it's a racist, sexist, misogynistic model. But yeah, and again, I think those engines on the front here, those turbines, are done really well. That's done really well. I think those colors that are on there are done really well. Those greebles that exist are done really well, but I just don't know, like I said, if it's really that accurate. This right here, that's done really poorly, I think. But I like that, you know, they colored this right here and this with the blues, and I like the R2 unit and everything. I like the wings. Again, some of the parts of the engines don't fit that well, but if you don't look at it too closely, it's okay. So you have some inlaid some recessed parts here, some inlays on the lower wing, as you can see. And I think that looks really cool here as well, with those parts here where you can see the tube shining through, if you will. And yeah, so I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say. You can see a nice stepping effect, a nice grilling effect here and on the other wings. And again, it's a really nice kit. It's very quick to assemble, and again, for the price, you really can't complain. Sometimes you just have to move some of the parts in order to make the wings parallel to each other. Again, because it's really wobbly, but that's just a minor complaint. Maybe that's just my model, my copy of the model, because some of the parts don't really fit as they're supposed to. But again, for the price, you really can't complain. And I'm gonna try to weather it, repaint it, try to make it look more accurate, and I'm gonna get back to you when I did that. So
a few moments later.
So this is how it turned out. As you can see, it looks way more gritty, dirtied up, and weathered and beat down as before. I did a bunch of things. I used, normal, regular model making paints, colors, but I also used pens and pencils and markers and even nail polish and even, real dirt. I used ash to dirty it up, to just cover the whole thing a little bit in real dirt. And I used ash, I used sand, I used dust. So let's go bit by bit. I basically tried to draw in some extra lines and panels and rectangles and so for it to seem a bit more detailed. But in reality, I guess in the end, it just looks like a bunch of scratches and paint peeling off, or even paint just being thrown on, which is fine too. But I used some silver here. Here, I don't know if you can really see this. And of course on the other side as well. I basically made this whole thing here underneath the wing dirty and brown. The engines, the thrusters, as you can see, both here on the outside, these tubes here, and as well on the front here with the turbines, whatever. I completely blackened them on the inside here as well. I applied some white paint here and here just to make it seem, there's some scratches, there's some paint applications, there's some panels, some Aztecing, some decals. I dirtied up the front here to make it seem like scuff marks or battle damage. I didn't do as much on the bottom, but some scuff marks and dirt and rust on the front. As well as on the back here. I used black nail polish and ash and dust and watercolors even, but also some brown watercolors here as well, like I said, on the wings, to make it seem really, really dirty, like as it has literally gone through sand or a desert planet or a swamp, whatever. But this right here, this shape right here, the really darker shapes, that's probably nail polish. So this brown stuff here is watercolors, and the black, the darker parts, the recessed areas, that's nail polish. I also essentially painted these tubes here silver, all of them, you know, all of these tubes here, because I mean that just gives it more of a tech feel, of a metal. This is actually part of a highly technical spacecraft that's welded out of metal. I also painted this area here black and then put some white on top of these little squares here, because there are so many lines and dots and panels and shapes and greebles in there, so I just try to make it stand out a little more. The same on the back, try to dirty it up with some black in here, this right here, because you know there are so many pipes and greebles and shapes. In general, just going through with some watercolor through all of the ship makes the already caved in lines and shapes stand out much more. So that was the goal of that, but then I tried to make some parts extremely black. For instance, here and here. I like this angle, I like this angle, this angle. I don't know about that. I don't know about that so much, because you can see that, you know, it's just mostly scratches. I tried to paint in some lines, as you can see here on the cockpit. Here, you know, I tried to paint in some black lines, but I don't know. I also painted this red here, because on most of the pictures, the beginning of the turbines here, they were red, and I accentuated these two rectangles here. They were already there, but I painted them. I put some lines, some black lines around them to make them stand out more, because, you know, accentuating the already present lines and shapes by just painting over them with light black makes it just more detailed looking, makes it seem, hey, there's a lot of tech going on, there are a lot of tubes and pipes and shapes and different parts and plates. But then I also, you know, painted in some Aztecing, like I said, as with the silver and the white parts here, but also right here you can see there's a white panel that I just painted in. And, you know, again, as you can see here, when you go over these already structured parts with some black paint, it makes it stand out more, because obviously the paint sticks inside the recessed areas. I think it really turned out quite great. Yeah, that line right here that goes across the cockpit, that's also something that, you know, just try to make it look dirty. That's probably watercolor I did there. Yeah, there's also some red here. Again, I used a bunch of different pencils and pens and colors, and so yeah, the endings here of these blasters, whatever, I painted them silver, just again to make it look more like this is actually metal. These parts are already quite detailed, but it gave it more of a tech feel, making it silver. So that's basically all I did. Went through the whole thing with some black watercolors and some dirt and some ash to make the paint stick in the recessed lines, to make them stand out more. Painted in some new lines and squares and rectangles and stuff like that, but also painted some parts straight up black, straight up silver or white, and, you know, just added a few scratches and scuff marks, like here on the front. Added some dirt here, for instance, added some rust on the engines. That was already there, but I tried to, you know, just fill in some dirt spots that were a little wider, a little less concentrated, if you will. And I think in the end, with this cheap model kit, you can actually do something with it. You can make a great model out of it. I guess my advice would be, if you have both this one and the Bandai one readily available, just pay the few extra bucks and buy the Bandai one, you know. But if you only have this one readily available, buy this one. You can actually do something with it, you know. But if you do have the possibility to choose between the two, then I would definitely say buy the Bandai one. And if you don't have any in a local shop in your town, and you have to order online anyway, just order the Bandai one, because the Bandai one already comes with all these scuff marks and dirt and rust and weathering and all that stuff. But you can actually do something with this kit. Here it looks like metal, but the paint is peeling off or something like that. I think that looks pretty good. You can actually do something with this kit if you want to. For 10 bucks, you really can't complain. So that's all I have to say about that. Check out my other Star Trek, Star Wars prop, model, and movie and TV episode reviews and sci-fi stuff and rants and vlogs. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Peace the fuck out.